So this is Nebraska Savvy Seniors Empowerment Seminars, and I welcome everybody here today. It's nice to see everybody in January, and it's a nice day. We're thankful there's no snowstorms out here. How many have never been to a Savvy Seniors Seminar before? Oh, good. So we got some new people. That's great. So did anybody bring a friend that has never been here before? Okay, so we have a special gift for you. You can take something out of the basket here. So we're glad you're here. Thanks for taking the time today. This is an intentional step that you have that says you're willing to just pause and reflect and invest in yourself as we begin the new year. And as we move through the different seasons of our life, it's more important than ever to just maybe slow down and reflect and ask ourselves some meaningful questions. And so that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to ask you what truly matters in life and where's your energy best spent, and what might you need to even release, and what can you do to reclaim your joy. So today's theme, New Year, New You, reset, refocus, and reclaim your joy. And this life isn't about perfection, is it? But it's about progress and being the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be, right? And it's about creating a space for yourself. And that might be resetting some habits or routines that no longer serve you well, or refocus on what truly matters in this season of your life, and reclaim the joy in your home, in your health, in your relationships, and just your overall outlook on life. So why do we do this at Savvy Seniors? Because we care about you and we want to see the best in our community, and we try to educate, equip, and empower our 55 community to be the best that they can be and to help one another. And so we want to provide you today with some trusted information without a sales pitch, and everything we do is just centered on helping seniors and their families make informed, confident decisions. So today, what you can expect from the seminar is a thoughtful panel of professionals that we have here, and they're going to share some practical insights on wellness and movement, organization, your home, your environment, your mindset that you might have, your purpose, and personal renewal, as well as real-life perspectives that you can actually apply that will always fit into your life. So we encourage you to listen, take notes. You all have your takeaways sheets there. Take notes on there and ask questions. And towards the end, we'll have a Q&A session, and we'll pass around the microphone. We feel that really works best so that everybody can hear the questions that you have for our panelists, okay? And then just reflect on, this time is for you, okay? So, one little announcement, which isn't really a little announcement, but we have a really big announcement, is we're starting our Nebraska Savvy Seniors Empowerment Seminars in Omaha. And they are going to be held the second Wednesday of the month. So next Wednesday at the same time, we're going to be doing the same thing up at St. Andrew's Lutheran Church on 15050 West Maple up in Omaha. How many of you know somebody in Omaha? Okay, tell all your Omaha friends, come to Omaha. We'd love to have you. You might get so much out of this seminar that you want to hear these wonderful people speak again, because sometimes in Omaha when we do our panels, our panelists will be different people covering the same subject. But we're honored to have these guys up on our panel again next week. So thank you for doing not just one seminar with us, but two. Okay. So I'm just going to start by having our panelists introduce themselves to you and tell you how they fit into the senior arena and what they do for seniors in their communities. So Janet, do you want to start?
Am I talking in this? Nope. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. Well, as you said, I'm Janet Miller. I'm from Omaha. I work at the Salvation Army Croc Center, which is a very, very large community fitness and community center. And I am the senior life specialist there. And what I tell people is I'm the person there for the fun. There are other people that do fitness. I do fun. So I've set up presentations like this. I take people on field trips. We do movies. We do all kinds of fun things. So that's basically my position. Fun.
Great. And she is a fun person just in general, too.
Pastor Art Phillips, I'm on staff here at the church, retired United Methodist minister, and I've been on staff here for 4 years. Some of the ministry work that I do, most everything I do involves seniors, actually, in one way or another, because a lot of my ministry work is during the daytime. But also, so having lost my wife 6 years ago, I'm involved in 2 spouse loss support groups here. I lead those groups here at the church. I recently taught a class in how to support people who have that happens every time my phone goes off, you know. So, but I recently taught a class, 5-6 weeks of how to support other people who are grieving, how to be there for them, you know. Also, I teach a Bible class every Thursday at 11 o'clock, just down the hall. And I may mention that later to you in some of the response, talking about a new year, about some changes we make in our lives, about directions that we're seeking. So, but it's a pleasure to be here. I've attended one other meeting here. It was involving senior dating.
Yeah, that was last
That was a
February.
hoot.
There's been a wedding because of that
A
seminar.
lot of fun. So, but I'm glad you're here as I represent the church here. Glad you're here.
My turn. My name is Joe Erdkamp. I am also in the fitness industry. I have been for many years. I was actually an athlete. I was a track and field athlete for University of Nebraska back in the 90s. And after that, I became a personal trainer in '01. And I've been doing that, at least that ever since. But yeah, so I've been working with clients of all ages from age 8 until later in life as well. So I've worked with a lot of different populations, with athletes, with people that had special physical needs that we needed to work on, imbalances, injuries, those kind of things. And also recently I got into the senior markets and marketing for senior care, for home care. And as well, I am on the Nebraska specialty group, senior focused real estate team as well. So I'm trying to help seniors in all these different facets. So it's a little bit about me. Talk a little bit more.
Hello, I'm Wendy with Organized by Design. We help people with their transition, usually from downsizing, organizing, moving. So we help with the hand-holding process during the downsizing time in their lives. So yeah, and this year is a good start, and January is a great start to get motivated to downsize and to go through your things.
Great, okay. So you have the microphone over there, Wendy, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start with you.
Okay.
Wendy, can you tell us how clutter can impact the stress in your life and just your overall emotional well-being?
Yes, the statistics say that clutter drains you of your energy, takes over it causes a lot of stress. And I have a presentation, actually, well, most of you know, but we're doing a presentation at Sage the end of the month on the 28th. I do have flyers, or Susan and I will have flyers on it. But on the presentation, I have a lot of factual information. So clutter causes a lot of anxiety, stress. It weighs us, it causes lots of time, we have a lot of depression, and it might be because somebody's maybe in the hospital and then you come back and you have a pile of mail. Just a little bit of clutter causes that stress. They say that the average person manages 300 items. So just think of all those items that you're managing in your brain every single day, trying to remember where all those things are.
That's so true. And one thing I heard many, many years ago when my kids were in youth group, the youth pastor told me, a woman feels how her house looks. And don't you think that's true? If our house is a mess, we kind of feel out of sorts. So that was just something that always kind of stuck with me. Joe, we're going to go next to you. So Joe, for seniors, what's the most important reason why we should stay active as we age?
Well, I think it's true for any individual, especially seniors, but I've noticed this myself as I'm aging. I'm getting a landmark birthday coming up this weekend. And so as an athlete too, as a person who is just working their career, you're doing a lot of repetitive things. So in most of our jobs, we're sitting for a long time. Our hip flexors get tight. You have internal rotation of the hip, the low back gets tight, which translates to the knees as well. And all these kind of things cause dysfunction and imbalances in our bodies. So you see that with people that do all those repetitive things. They drive a lot, or you're sitting a lot, or you're doing an action. In sports, that's repetitive. And so there's imbalances. In our system, we need to be balanced. And so it's important to do active activities or exercises, a well-programmed program that has all these different planes of motion so we can stay balanced and prevent that or correct it once we've created those imbalances. And so I truly believe that most injuries and ailments that we have physically are from those imbalances. Sometimes there's impact injuries, maybe there's some degenerative issues, but for the most part, it's those imbalances. Like the hip joint where you have some muscles that are tight in this direction, so you have this torquing and compression of that connective or the cartilage and those soft tissue areas. So it wears at it, and then we get bone on bone. So the sooner we can get on those things and stay active through a well thought through program, better off we'll be.
Oh, great. Okay. That makes you want to go out and start exercising, doesn't it? Art. Why is reflection important as we start the new year, especially as we age and for seniors?
You know, I really believe this is true, that we're kind of programmed every year this time of year to think this is a new beginning, this is a new time for us to start. And so I think that it can be a time of priorities, it can be a time of looking for new opportunities, which I really appreciate what we've heard so far. But I think there's just something inside of us that's almost innate that says, I should be doing something about the fact that I have a new year starting. And sometimes we neglect this, perhaps the spiritual part of our lives, you know, such an important part of who we are. And so I think that it's a time for reflecting. I think it's a time for, and maybe we'll get into this further, but I think it's also a time for sorting in our lives and to leaving some things behind that we don't need to take with us into the new year. Some of us, unfortunately, have situations or conditions, especially, that we cannot leave behind. I understand that. I have two friends right now who have been diagnosed with cancer, and they're facing a new year of a little bit of uncertainty, but they also are facing a year of challenge in being treated. And so sometimes it's just healthy for us, especially in those situations, I believe, to be able to sort out and say, well, those things, whether they're failures or successes, those should stay in the year that we've exited. And so I need to sort those. And reflection is always to a degree is healthy, you know. And I'll maybe talk about a little bit more about that. That there is a degree of inner reflection that we don't want to pass into that necessarily. But it is a healthy thing for you, for us, for me, to take some time and to sort and reflect.
Well, Janet, you work with a lot of seniors up at the Kroc Center, and you see people coming and going on a daily basis. And from your experience, what do seniors need at the beginning of the new year? What would be the things that would really be helpful for them?
Well, I think, you know, you just mentioned some of it. And I'm in the process of doing this myself, taking a look at what I've done for the past year and how can I make my new year better. And in my case, I think I need to exercise more than I've been exercising. And, you know, but I think it's time to really set some goals and figure out ways that you're gonna follow through on those goals, because we do feel a lot better if we follow them. But the only danger is if any of you are like me, you may set more goals than are realistic. So, I think the first thing is to focus on what is something that you know you can be successful with. And then pick that one thing. And then you can slowly add more adjustments. Don't say, I'm going to exercise 5 days a week for 3 hours a day. Maybe dip your toe in the water. Maybe just get up and stretch, whatever it is. But I do think that planning, scheduling some time, if you're like me, if I don't have a schedule, it won't happen. So, and I'll tell you how I started, just real quick to give you an idea. Two years ago, about 3 years ago now, I bought a gym bag. Okay, I told myself at Christmas, if I buy a gym bag, I will exercise. And I did. And that's how I got my job, actually. But, think of something. Buy a gym bag. Do something that you can schedule.
Good. Joe, did you have something to add into that?
Yeah, I did. I thought those are great pieces of advice, and I think one of those factors, the motivating factor, I think, for you is the gym bag or something you've committed, you purchased, and now you want to see that through. And then finding that motivation, sometimes it's an image of what you want to look like, or setting goal setting. People have vision boards, placing those kind of things up there, so you see that daily. I myself use a planner that has goals, priorities, to-do lists, and so I can track those habits. And really, habits, I think, is a big part of that. A habit has to be created over time. And I think at one point they were saying 21 days, but that's debunked now, and they're saying closer to probably like 2 months, 66 days. And it depends on a lot of factors, but your own personal. Some people have an ability to pick up those habits and stick with them in a short period of time. Some people need longer periods of time. But I think that feedback loop too, if you're getting something from it. But the biggest thing is just doing that with consistency and doing that with frequency with anything, and then that'll create those habits and becomes more joyful, and you see reap those benefits. I had, and in the beginning it seems like, it's like that massive uphill climb. For instance, I had a client when I just started training years and years ago, and he was in his late 50s, early 60s, I think, and he had injured his arm when he was a kid, maybe 10 or 12, I think it was, and he had carried this arm like this ever since then. I asked him about it, and at the time I didn't know what contracture was or anything like that, and I'm assuming that's kind of what he had. So I thought, let's see, have you ever tried straightening that? And he said, no, I just don't use this arm much. I said, well, let's try something. So I started a stretching program with him, and I kept progressively adding weights, and we did some PNF type stuff. It's proprioceptive, neurofacilitated. So you're flexing it and then stretching it, activating it, and then just passive stretching just with increased weights. And I got his arm all the way straight, and then he was doing powerlifting competitions later after that. So it's just, so you just stay with something, and it's that consistency. But find that goal and charting it can be a big factor also. So.
Well, and you kind of answered my next question, but what would be the safest way or the simplest way to kind of restart then if somebody hasn't done anything for a while?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of resources out there. And they used to, like for instance on nutrition, they used to have that food pyramid. Hopefully nobody's really following that so much. They use something called MyPlate. MyPlate.gov, has anybody ever seen that? That's actually a pretty good resource. It's a good basic one for nutrition, and it outlines how we divide up half the plate for fruits and vegetables, and maybe a little bit more on the vegetable side, and grains, whole grains. Finding those things, finding those resources, that information, meeting with experts or programs. There are a lot of programs. There's fitness apps. Most people have smartphones today, and there's great apps on there. I wouldn't want to recommend necessarily any particular ones, but look at those stars, read those reviews on them, find those resources. There's a lot of people that you can reach out to in the fitness industry that are willing to give you some of the information. Sometimes, there are actually a lot of senior programs. Also, I know you'll probably talk about that, like with the Croc Center and Silver Sneakers and that too. So finding that information, looking at credible sources, and comparing across different ones too. But yeah.
Wendy, next question is for you. Why does it feel so overwhelming when we talk about decluttering? And especially for seniors, it seems very overwhelming when our kids are gone, they left all this crap behind, right? Why is it so overwhelming for us?
Well, we feel like we have a connection with our things. I mean, we feel like, oh, my son made this in kindergarten and I need to save it. But honestly, if you ask him, they'll probably 99% of the time they'll say, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want the things that maybe it's past time. I just read something this morning that, we save so many things, but we're not using the things. We are having it just because we feel like they're connections and they're part of us, but they're really not. I mean, if you got rid of those kindergarten box of kindergarten stuff that your kids had, I mean, would you feel lost? No, we don't need those items. So I just think that lots of times we feel that connection. We want to have control over our items, and when we let things go, it's emotionally hard for us. But the end result is that we go back and say, oh, I don't have to think about those 300,000 more items that we have.
True. Well, what's one small step they can take, or we can all take, to just kind of simplify our space? What's one thing that we can do to start?
I think when Anna was talking about a new start, this is a new year, so get rid of something every day. And we're handing out those tidy up kits. Just take the trash bag around and throw things away, throw things in for a donation. Just have that resource that you always know that you're gonna have maybe a box ready to go that is ready to take to donation.
Good. Go ahead, Janet.
Mine, however, will be funny, of course. To me, what you do is you get a dumpster and you put it in your driveway and you tell your husband you have 2 months to get his crap out of the house. Then you tell, if you
Or
have
the garage.
Yeah, and then you tell your children the same thing. You have 2 months to get that stuff out of the house. So I had to do that so I could tell you that, but I realized that these things are really hard for us as we get older. One of the things that I did was to have a small plastic container that I used to put memories, and I labeled them. This is memories of my mother, memories of my daughter. But you keep that with you.
It's hard sometimes.
I always say that a good thing to do is, you don't need a whole garage full of those memories of those people. So we usually help people that need a little extra push. And it might be somebody that has lost a child and they want to write their name and say, okay, this is your tote of memory. But one client that we had a whole garage full, and I was like, your dad is 89 years old. You don't need a whole garage full of his stuff that you're not even using. So you can always keep those memories, keep the memories of them, not their items.
Good. Well, Art, we're going to ask you the next question because it kind of goes along these same lines. So, as we age, we've dealt with a lot of crises in our lives. We've had maybe some health shifts, some family transitions. We've had some loss and some changes in our homes. So, how can seniors find peace during these times of change?
I really think that to me, it's a kind of a long question in the sense that we need to establish a regular, I don't know about routine, but I would say kind of routine, or at least be aware of the values that we have that are most important for us to focus on. Because when I go through times of loss, if I'm not careful, then I focus only upon the loss. But if I'm finding some values, and one of the values that I would especially encourage you to embrace is the value of serving other people, and to find a way to be involved with other people. And I'll talk maybe a little bit later about gathering in groups, which I think is such a healthy thing, evidenced by the way you gather here, you know. But I think a lot of times it really has a lot to do with what we're focusing on. And granted that when we're going through times of loss, we don't just shut that off and go on. I mentioned to you that my wife passed away 6 years ago. I understand that part of it, you know, and we don't ever really move totally away from loss. But we find ways to not just fill our lives with less than valuable things, that's really not a solution. But if we find ways to make a difference in our own lives, but also, especially in the lives of others, if we really find places to volunteer, if we find people to identify with, that's a wonderful bridge, I believe, to keep us, to keep a healthy perspective on life, is to find that bridge. So I'm not sure that.
Yeah, okay, great. Wendy, back to you. How do you help clients then go through some of those sentimental things? I know you kind of touched on that, but it is kind of, you have to be pretty delicate. How do you help them actually, okay, you told them, but how did the physical part of letting go?
I always say that anybody can throw things in a box. Anybody can, right? But it's the hand holding that is just needed. It's all how you handle things. You know, like we talked about getting a roll off and taking those things and throwing them away. Yeah, we can. Lots of people can do that, and we do that all the time. It's amazing how much stuff people have that they can just get a roll off, right? But sometimes it's those items that we just want to be cautious about and careful about and respectful about, and we just go through and just go one by one and say, okay, let's make a decision here. And you don't have to make a decision right away if you want to say, I have never used that, and that was my husband's from 20 years ago. You know, maybe it's something as simple as his pipes or something that maybe represented him. Just keep one. You know, you don't have to you can get rid of them or donate them. So we usually just go through left to right and have just a simple way of handling things with care, and then helping you make a decision. You know, there might be things that we ask, or things that we remind you that you haven't used it, or you already have. We always say 52 coffee cups.
Yeah.
52, the average person has 52 coffee cups. Are you really gonna have 52 people there having coffee? So, you know, just little things like that makes people laugh, and then they think, okay, you're right, I need to get rid of that best grandpa in the world coffee cup. Yeah, I don't need, it's not even the size I would even like, but I got it for my grandkids. We can donate it now. Perfect.
Good. Well, we're going to pass it down to Janet for a second. Janet, it's important for us seniors to stay socially connected and engaged, but what role does our routine play into our emotional well-being and having a good routine? Because I know isolation can kind of creep up on us. We say no to this, and then we say no to that, and pretty soon we're home alone almost every day. How can we avoid that, and why is that important?
Well, I think that, you know, you said isolation, that's one of the killers of those of us that are older, is to become isolated. It is extremely important to find some type of social network, a reason to get up, a reason to go out. And that's what I think, you know, joining community centers, health centers, all of those things help us to get out of ourselves and get involved with others. I can give you an example of a couple that the man had a heart attack, and they live real close to the Croc Center where I work. They had never come there, but he needed to start doing something to, physically. So they came as a couple, and they were doing exercise, and then they started meeting more people. He was not somebody that spent a lot of time talking to people, but he started doing that, and now this couple is at the center 5 days a week. They are involved in everything, and even if his wife doesn't go, this man shows up. And it's made a big difference. They will tell you that just staying at home, even though it had the two of them, has made a huge difference in their lives as far as finding a community of people that they can get with. And so I think that especially if you've lost a loved one, if you are home alone, all you do is spend time thinking about the person that you've lost. And it's really, really important to get out and start establishing friendships and getting involved, even if it's finding a close friend and having dinner with them once a week, whatever it takes. I've got to actually, and it happens no matter how old you are. We have one of our gals at the Croc Center who's in her 40s, and her husband died recently, and right now she is really struggling being alone and trying to figure out what life is going to be. And you can attest to those things. So I'm kind of working with her on just trying to find ways to not stay at home.
Good.
If I may, I just would add something that it seems so logical and so apparent, but dealing with people who have lost their spouses, in the groups that I've worked with, the one thing I say, well, what is the biggest challenge? And the biggest challenge is loneliness. It really is. It's being, it's realizing that your life has changed. And it doesn't have to be, that's not restricted to spouse loss, believe me. But the factor of loneliness is such a debilitating thing in the lives of people. I agree. Thank you.
Yes, and grief, in my business too, grief can come from a lot of different things. Especially when we're talking about senior transitions, it can come from the grief of you're moving and you're downsizing, you're moving from that big family home into a smaller town home, and the grief of leaving that community and the neighbors that you know and the house that you've left all those years. So we kind of pass around the word joy, and we use the word joy a lot, especially during the Christmas season. How many of us have always heard the word joy? But what does that really mean, Art? Can you tell us what reclaiming joy truly will mean in this stage of life? I mean, are we going to go around dancing and singing? What is this joy thing?
Let me think. Actually, thinking about this, in the scripture, and forgive me if I'm a pastor, okay? But forgive that reference if that's an offense. But in the scripture, it's really interesting to me that so often joy is connected with amazement. As a matter of fact, I spoke about this a while back, but in the scripture, amazing things happen. And when people are amazed, it brings a sense of joy to us, So what I would encourage is being open to be amazed in life. You know that? To be willing to be surprised, to be willing to be impressed or amazed by, and it doesn't have to be the great things, by the way. It can be the small things in life that are just amazing. And so amazement is hard, it's hard. You see, I believe that we are really, we are created or designed to be curious. But there's a little difference between curiosity and amazement, at least in my perspective. And that the curious, we have ways of solving things from time to time. Amazement is, I'm not sure I can figure out where this came from, but it's just amazing to me that it's this way. And so amazement and joy really do come together. Now there are other factors in joy, I get that, you know. There are being satisfied with life, there being purpose, finding a purpose to live. Those things all bring joy. But I think as I said, I think one of the things that is undervalued is simply being amazed. And if you allow me, or even if you won't, I'm going to say this, you know, but I grew up in one of the amazing things in my life is Christmas Eve. Okay? Christmas Eve is an amazement to me. It is. I grew up in a situation, I grew up in a church that we didn't even recognize Christmas Eve. I mean, there wasn't anything, you know. But then it changed denominations. I became a United Methodist pastor. And the first church that I pastored, it came to Christmas Eve time, and some people came to me and said, "By the way, Pastor Art, we celebrate Christmas Eve here." And I said, "Yeah, that sounds good." And they said, "Here's what we do." And they began to describe what they do on Christmas Eve. And what they did was they said, we get together Christmas Eve evening, and we sing some carols, we read scripture, you give a short message, and then we take an offering. Oh, did we mention you give a short message? And then they said, and then when it's all toward the end of the service, maybe you've experienced this in your own life. At the end of the service, we light a candle, and we sing together, Silent Night. And it'd be interesting to how many of you, I'm not going to ask, but you see, that to some people that doesn't seem like anything. But I go back to that every Christmas Eve, and I'm still amazed at that beauty, the beauty of experiencing that. And I think that not only are we, when we're open to amazement, we're not just looking for strange things out there, but we're going back to things that we've experienced in our life in which we've experienced true amazement. And when we do that, it's not, we may not stand up and shout or sing or anything, but there's that deep sense of things that are right in our lives. And that really is what joy is about. Joy is more about the deep sense of things are right than the things that are always outwardly rejoicing. So I kept it there a little
No,
bit.
that's good. So how does that tie into gratitude then? Gratitude and joy. How does that correlate to each other?
You know, here we go as a pastor. I don't think, let me just go a little bit further with amazement. That is that I don't think we should seek amazement just to be amazed, you know. I don't think we should seek amazement just to feel, well, that's amazing, you know. What I really think amazement about is to finding things that we can connect with our faith in God. That we can honestly say, that is amazing. And when we do that naturally brings a sense of gratitude to God for the things, whether they're large or whether they're small, you know. We stop and say, isn't it amazing what God has done? And so an important part of it is, I think, gratitude for other people. I don't want to pass over on that. That is so significant. But I also think that sometimes our gratitude toward God is a little anemic and not as strong as it should be. So help bail me out of this one. Okay?
I have a little more simplistic idea for me. Gratitude for me is to be able to have the job that I have that enables me to do the kinds of things that I do for the seniors that come into our place, and to see the joy and to feel the joy that they have in where they're at and what they're doing. I think being able to do what you love brings you joy. And so for sometimes we have to find what it is that we really like and enjoy and find opportunities to bring that joy to ourselves. So that's the way I look at at joy and my gratitude.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I just thought of something. Had been thinking of something too. I think that's a great point about the little things, and I think it's all relative to what's important to you. We are, you know, I mentioned habits. We're creatures of habits, and a lot of times those aren't necessarily great habits. And sometimes we just need somebody to give us a tug or a kick in the pants. Sometimes you don't feel like doing something, and then you finally go with it, and you realize, wow, that was fun, or not what my expectations were. Or like with, sometimes we become hoarders. I myself have been that way. And then I watched that show, what was it called, American Pickers? Anybody watch that? And you just see what, you know, it can be, and I think sometimes changing that perspective, but surrounding ourselves with people that are more the way that we want to be, I think, you know, those community centers, but finding people that are more positive or motivating or doing the things that we want to be doing instead of just, you know, the opposite. I think can be a huge thing.
Wendy, did you have something to add to that one?
Well, I always say that organizing is really fun, right? And you know, lots of times people don't think it's a joy to organize, right? It's like, I really need to clean this out or go through the storage room or something. So I always say that we're grateful. We really have a lot. We're being Americans. We have the ability to go shopping. We can go out and buy and collect the things that we want to, but then to get rid of it just weighs us and it doesn't bring us any joy. But I always say, like, when we come in, we love it. We are fun, we come in and help people, and then the joy and the amazement. And we have a thing in our office where we're like, this just looks amazing. And it's just such a great feeling once you have that option to get rid of things, and how lightweight and the joy after it will come. Yeah.
Joe, I have a question, getting back to your exercise routine and habits. So what are some practical ways that as seniors we can begin, if we haven't been active in our exercise routine, to improve our balance and improve our strength? What are some ways that we can just start and begin?
You know, instead of going to an expert or a program that's focused on that, there are some of the physical therapists will do some of these things too. But starting with the basics, and so when I was a kid, I remember I was 12 years old when I first started working out, and I was laying on my bed, I was like trying to figure out how the muscles work, and I think, and then when I was an athlete too, my coach told me I was the best coach that I had. But my way of thinking was always trying to figure out how things work, to become a student of that. But I think, you know, we don't always think about how things work. Why am I having this pain? But it's all connected, and getting at the root of it. A lot of times our core is, I'm sitting up here and I'm realizing that I'm slouching. You know, that leads to shoulder issues and neck issues. But yeah, trying to rebalance all those things. But think about, and then I also had gotten into martial arts, and I realized that I was weak laterally on the outside of my thigh, and that translated into my core, and I realized that I was starting to get some back tightness and those imbalances I didn't quite understand. So I studied those. Look up how those things function when you have those kind of things. The best thing you can do for yourself is be your own advocate for it, to find out more information on it. But I realized even holding my leg up to the side, it made me contract all these things. So what happens is those things are shut off. And so that's what's contributed to that imbalance, not just because you're also overusing this one area, maybe the front of your hip a lot of times. But so there's what's called like a lower cross syndrome. So I hear about that, I looked that up, what is that? So you have tightness in the hip flexors, and it translates into low back because it's always on, so it doesn't have relief. Then the glutes and the lower abs are shut off. So activating those muscles that are shut off, identifying those, consulting with fitness experts or programs. There's a lot of online resources, reaching out to them. A lot of them are going to want to share some of those details with you. Sometimes they want you to pay for more of them, but initially, you know, finding people that you know in the industry, I'd be more than happy to, you know, help out with some of those things too. I don't do a lot of training anymore. I'm more focused in other areas, but I still do take care of a few clients. But there's a lot of resources out there, and just in this age, we have all this information at our fingertips. It's not just for endless scrolling on social media. I'm not sure how many people fallen into that, but there's lots of information on there. Yeah, that's what I would do, is find out for myself.
Well, so how much exercise would a senior need to do on a weekly basis, on number, how many days a week, how many minutes a day to get started, to actually see a difference and start making a difference in our life?
I would think the first thing, and we talked about habits, is creating that. So whether it's a small amount, and not even where you want to go to, maybe 20, 30 minutes, maybe starting with 10 minutes or 5 minutes, but getting in that frequency during the week. Maybe it's 3 times a week, then pushing it to 4 times a week, logging that, and then building that up. So oftentimes it seems such a giant task to accomplish this. We start with small things and then just build those up. And just like with anything, you see somebody who's playing a concert pianist, like, how did you ever get there? And you start with, just taking away small little things. So that's how I would do it. Maybe like, if you haven't been walking, if you've been inactive, starting with like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then upping that ante. But I would get that frequency during the week, and then add the time, and then you can add variety too. That's when I would do that. But keeping it basic, I would start with, and also, so there's a thing called delayed onset muscle soreness. When you work a muscle, especially if you haven't been using it, it's going to be a little bit more sore from less, and then you can progress that up and keep adding to it. But so delayed onset muscle soreness will be about 48 hours after, and so recognizing that, so starting a little lighter, and then adding a little bit to it, so you're not quite as sore, because that can be kind of a negative feeling at first. And when I started working and I really got into it, I welcomed that soreness. I knew that, what that meant, and I would obliterate, like, my legs. Sometimes I'd have to lay there for 45 minutes to an hour afterwards, and I just tear them down. So the more you tear down, the quicker you can build up, but you have to do that in stride, because in the beginning, a little bit goes a long way. So working up to 20, 30 minutes, 5 times a week, something like that, starting with walking. But I would also do, like I said, a lot of planes of motion, so we can rebalance that and identify that. So if I'm slouching, I need to work on my shoulders, we're stretching the chest out, focusing. What pulls those back? Think about what muscles will do that and keep that body in balance. So there's a lot of resources online too, but looking at how you are functioning.
Okay. So Janet, you work with a lot of seniors, and sometimes they might feel kind of stuck. So what would you say are some ideas for people who are stuck and don't really feel motivated? Do you have seniors who maybe come to your center or who haven't been coming for a while? How do you get them remotivated to do things?
I'm not really sure I'm the one that motivates them very much, but I'm trying to encourage people to take a look at the different kinds of offerings that we have at our center, and encouraging them to try one of them. Again, not setting yourself up to fail. I would suggest, for those of you that have some mobility issues, if you start in the water, it's a really good way to start doing exercise. Or you can be as simple as buying yourself a gym bag and deciding that you're going to do that. One of the things that has always helped me is to find a buddy. I find, at least for my own self, personally, I'm not very self-disciplined. But if I have another buddy that's going to do something with me that will keep me accountable, I'm more apt to follow through. And then once I get going, then I can do it more on my own. But a lot of us are nervous about doing things by ourselves. That's something new. So, like I said, if you have another friend that you might walk with, maybe find another friend that has a similar insurance policy that you have, that lets you go for silver sneakers or something for free at one of your community centers or Wise. Starting like that. And then, like I said, if you join some places, you'll be amazed at all the new people that you meet that can be new plans to keep you going.
True. Joe, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I got rolling there and I forgot what I was going to say earlier. In order to get started, what I would start with is static holds. I wanted to mention that, like with your core. Also, so for balance too. So sometimes we develop balance issues. I've even noticed that myself, and as I'm aging here, and I was, like I said, I was an athlete, so I overworked some things, and so I have to rebalance things. And just in like holds, like so we can do like a semi-supported, standing by some structure like a podium like this, lifting that leg up and starting with maybe a hold it for 10 seconds, or working up to 20 seconds. But finding all those planes of motion, holding your leg out to the side, core planks, you guys have seen those, or on your forearm, starting on your knees and progressing that up. But activating our core is a huge part of our movement. You don't realize it until you've got an injury or you overwork something, you have a strain, and you realize how much you activate it. But that can help. I would start doing those static holds and holding for a few seconds, adding that up.
And we all know that, or most of us probably know that falls are the major cause of injury as we age. And so by doing some of these core balances things, do you think that would help with that fall risk?
Yeah, and developing our legs. A lot of times we have knee issues, hip, back, and so like for instance, we can't maybe sometimes squat, right? What I do with my clients, instead of just a free squat, just with your own body weight, sometimes that causes some knee pain. What we can do is hold on to a solid structure, a pole, and then put our feet closer to it, keep our shoulders back, upright posture, sitting back with the shoulders, and so you're able to go lower, because what it does is puts the stress, instead of on the knees, pushes it back towards core, and then the glutes are involved a little bit more. And then finding that position, holding that position, trying to get to that 90-degree position, or somewhere close to it, and then building that up a little lower. And then we can do squats up and down from that position instead of free. So using a device to aid in that mechanism to balance, and as you regain balance, is starting to let go a little bit more, doing a little bit more on your own, so taking those steps in progression.
Okay. Then we're going to switch it over to some organization skills again. Wendy, what are some common organizing mistakes that us seniors make that you see a lot?
Oh, well, I would have to say the connection, that people feel connected, they have a history. You know, it's the I always talk about crystal in China. It's the crystal in China that my mom or I got for my wedding. But we see it in the cupboard and we've never used it, and it has lead in it, so we don't eat on it. So, you know, just the whole connection of why we feel so connected. And then you get to the next generation, the generation X, Y, teenagers, all those people, they are just, I would say we're more living in a disposable world. So, you know, I have a son who's 24, doesn't like to do dishes, so he eats out of paper plates. I was like, really? That's the answer that you have? So I think that we just have the generational changes of who we are and what we feel connected to.
Yeah, true. So how can seniors avoid the decision fatigue when they're going through their stuff? Do you find that they get tired of deciding, making decisions about every little thing?
Yeah, well, and sometimes it's just going through that. You know, Joe talked about having a buddy. Sometimes we say, I have people come up to our booth all the time and say, I've been working on my storage room and I had my sister come over and help, or something. So just have somebody accountable. Sometimes people just want to talk about it. They come over and tell us, I worked on my storage room. Great, good job. You know, so just being accountable for it, being proud of yourself is one thing of doing it too. And just do it, just get started. I always say, they say, I don't know where to start. That's the first question I get when people call. Start left to right. Start in the room that you don't want to tackle first. Do it first and you'll feel better, and then it will be easy to go through the rest of it.
Okay, so sometimes in the new year, it's just a matter of releasing some things.
Yes.
So Art, when we're talking about releasing our things, sometimes we have to release other things in order to get through. So how do we actually release things like regrets, grief, or disappointments we may have had in the prior year so that we can find joy and peace in the new year?
I think first of all, we have to be convinced that those things are detrimental. Sometimes we get so used to feeling connected with guilt or connected with failures, and we don't realize that we're kind of accepting them instead of instead of realizing that they are detrimental, you know. Sometimes we falsely feel, I suppose, that we deserve to feel guilty. And that's a conundrum that I can't cure. But I think we really need to decide, first of all, that we're more valuable. We're more valuable as healthy people than we are valuable as suffering people. Okay, the suffering and enduring things is a part of our lives. I realize that, but when we value ourselves and realize that there are some things that they're just not helpful to be thinking this way. They're just not helpful to be living this way. Then I think it's easier for us to reject those. That doesn't mean that those don't come back from time to time, and that we still have to occasionally deal with those feelings of guilt, false guilt especially, or feelings of inadequacy. Those things, they come back to us. But we have to be determined to realize that that's part of kind of a habit, a response habit that we need to get past. And personally, in a spiritual sense, I really believe that God does allow us to be corrected and to be reminded of things that we need to change in our lives, you know. And whether we credit God with that or not, there is something built into us that says, I need to change this. And those are the things we especially need to pay attention to in short term. We really do. So I'm not sure that I got where you need to go.
That's good. No, that's good. So Janet, sometimes it's the other way around. People retire, and then everybody thinks, oh, they're retired. They don't have anything else to do. So they're going to ask the retired person to do all these things. And maybe the retired person's already got things that they want to do. And their schedule gets even busier than they were when they were working. And we've all heard retired people say, I'm busier now than I was ever working. I don't know how I ever worked too, right? So how do you help seniors, or what advice would you give for seniors to kind of prioritize that time for themselves, for the organizing, for the exercising, for the spiritual renewals, and how do they protect that time?
I wish I knew. I tried to retire, hated it, decided I needed to keep working. But I think a lot of us have a hard time saying no. And not just, simple things, but basic things. I think we all need to come to a realization of what is really within our comfort, what is in our time, and what we value, and then learn to say no to people who try to pull us from what it is that we want to do. And that's really hard when you're a people pleaser. Those are really difficult things, but if you have to stand in front of a mirror and practice telling yourself no, you have to do it, and gain some more strength. And I happen to believe that those of us that are older are really have the capabilities to be really good at understanding what it is that we will and will not tolerate any longer in our lives. And Bud and I, in fact, talked about this in the car. There are certain things now that I might have agreed to or done when I was younger, but at 73, you're not going to get me to do what it is that I've chosen not to do anymore. And I think we need to find those places and then be solid in our conviction.
Good. Yeah, that's really good. So I just want to ask one more question and have each one of you answer this if you could. What does reclaiming your joy look like at this stage of life?
Well, I'm doing what I want to do. I'm happy with what I am doing. For me, it was learning more I went back to school and got my master's again at 67. You know, just finding those things that are important to you. And you're the only one that can identify that. You can't do this for anyone else other than yourself. You've got to find in your own personal joy. Mine is going to a job that I love, working with people I love.
Actually, that's pretty much my answer too, is that having retired and then coming back into ministry, finding or refinding the joy of doing what I think makes a difference. And so that's actually, that's really my answer too.
Yeah, I think it's a really individual answer. You know, it could be a small thing, a huge goal thing that you always want to do on your bucket list. I think we had said two things that were on the surface kind of conflicting. It seemed like conflicting. You said, you know, have somebody tug you into something you didn't want to do, and I had stated that sometimes you need that tug. But I think stepping out of the box you're used to and seeing it from a different perspective, I think is super important for anything. It's something that I've been working on a lot, and what I do is too many things at once. I didn't tell you all the careers that I was also a teacher. I was also a deputy with Douglas County. I've done a lot of different things, but that too has given me a lot of perspective, and I've seen the backstories of why we do the things that we do. I've seen the worst in society, and I've seen the best in it too. And I've seen kids that had massive behaviors, correct those, and how that process works, and in the fitness industry, and health and fitness, and in the community, and crime. I think all that perspective, the biggest thing I think we can do is learn at any stage in life, finding more information like I talked about with how our body functions, what's best for us, keeps us well and balanced. But finding that perspective, changing that point of view. A lot of times we get stuck in pattern, and stepping out of that could be the best thing we can do. But you know, and like what's good for Janet might not be for me or whomever. So seeing what works best for you, find those small goals and they add up. So that's how I find my joy. Could be little things.
I'm kind of going to go off of what Art was saying. You know, I'm not a preacher by any means, but going to church, they talked about fresh start and how most of us are really scared to go and do our next steps in our life and take that step. But most of the time when people do their steps going forward, they usually are positive steps. And I think we all get really comfortable. We get comfortable with who we're around, you know, our activities that we're doing with our friends, but our friendship changes every 5 years. Our lifestyle changes, our homes change, everything about us changes, and we make that step forward. So moving or decluttering might not seem like the best thing to do, but it's a step forward and a step to do it before your kids do it when you're gone. And then I would say my joy, helping people. You know, I always say again, we just don't put things in a box. We do the hand holding, which is a majority of what it is. We hear the tears and we hear the families talk about their drama or whatever's going on in their life. And usually at the end of the day, I go home and I'll get a text from a client or a call and say, you guys are amazing. You're just like the daughters or the kids that I never had, and I really appreciate what you do. So I think we all have something that we're striving for, and that's my bucket thing that I love, that keeps me going.
Good, thank you. So now we have time for questions. Does anybody out here have a question? We are going to have a mic passed around so that you can ask questions in the mic so that everybody can hear them.
I know you're all gonna laugh, but on LinkedIn, I accidentally followed Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he gave me a piece of advice that I thought was really stupid, and I wanted to ask you because I thought after a while that he was smart. He said, if you only do 20 minutes of exercise a day, you've accomplished something. And I thought about it, and I think it might be good advice because any kind of project, if you only give 20 minutes a day and just start, and like a tree, whack, whack, whack away. And so I guess my question is, do you think the 20-minute Arnold exercise a day is a good smart start to things?
I think it's great. Like I said, starting with something small and building up that frequency. I'm a big proponent of Arnold too. I've watched him since I was a kid. And in fact, what he did, he became a millionaire before he became a millionaire in acting. I don't know if anybody knows that. And he did that through real estate. And he just started small and built up, and he built, I think it was apartment complexes, and before he knew it. But yeah, that is the way, the pathway. It doesn't have to be a hard pathway. But in 20 minutes might seem like a lot too, so it's all relative. And in 20 minutes of what? What are we doing? Like a casual walk or rigorous exercise? But yeah, starting, I think that's a great place to start, for sure.
Next question? Raise your hand. Question? Right here.
So something I think almost each of you said at some point. One is, my daughter quotes to me, "Motion is lotion, Mom. That's how you're going to keep going. You just got to keep going." And another one that my husband always used, but I thought again applies what you were talking about, going with friends, doing things, is he always told our kids, "Show me your friends, I'll show you your future." So if we're hanging around with people, I'm sorry, old farts as I like to call them, people who aren't there, oh poor me, my hip hurts, my back hurts, my whatever, then that's not my kind of people. I've had both hips replaced, I've plate and screws in my back, I've had an elbow replaced, but I'm gonna keep on moving because I have lots more things to do. So I think all of you have said, just keep moving, one foot in front of the other, you don't have to be perfect. And something else I heard recently was, instead of saying New Year's resolutions, which we don't even get to January 3rd without bringing them, or goals, how about intentions? I intend to do better than I did last year. I intend to try something different. It's a little more, yeah, you're intentional instead of, oh, what a disaster, I didn't achieve that goal. So, I agree. A little wisdom.
Well, I think that's great, those intentions, but then also knowing that it's achievable too. I think you only have to convince one person. Right? Yourself, and then knowing the pathway towards it and finding that pathway, laying it out, having a program. But that intention is huge. I mentioned vision boards. I don't know if anybody's ever done those or seen those. A great visual. There are many people who believe in manifesting things, and I think that whether you do or not, if you have the intention, but you also have to take that step and have that action. Because in life, not too many times are things handed to us and they just keep flowing to us. Sometimes it seems like it. We've also gotten out in the community or taken that step out of our box in order for that to happen.
Got a question over here?
Yeah, it still takes that extra boost.
I don't have a question, but I think everything that you came up with, we all were thinking of things in our lives. There is an exercise place at Trinity Episcopal Church, which is across from Pius X, and Chris is there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9:30 to 11. It starts out with, does different kind of walking and different kinds of exercises, and it's free. You can just pay whenever you want, but it's great too. When you were talking about stuff, my daughter and I actually went through some boxes, and it was hard to get her started, but they're busy, you know. Finally did it. It was a lot of her old stuff, and we threw away a lot of stuff, but it was just fun going through it, and I saved one thing and she saved one thing, and otherwise I'd probably still have those boxes. And the libraries do have good organization things to go to too. I belong to book groups, I imagine a lot of people do. And the small surprises and joy when you're talking about that. My daughter called me the other day and she says, go out on your front porch, I sent you an orchid. And I thought, what am I gonna do with an orchid? Anyway, so I opened it up, and for Christmas she gave me a small arrangement of flowers and the orchid. They're both Legos. And so it's been fun putting Legos together for flower arrangements. And when you're talking about, I was thinking about singing, I went to Garrison Keillor a few times, and there is nothing, we were at Pinewood Bowl one night, singing with Garrison Keillor, all the songs, and beautiful night, full moon, it was just, it gives you the chills. And one other thing I was gonna say, I love Ollie classes. If you don't know what Ollie classes are, I just love going to Ollie classes, it's so much. I didn't go to college, but there's so many things to learn, and anyway, it's one of my favorite things.
We talked a lot about getting rid of emotionally attached things. What about the things that, hey, I'm gonna need that someday?
Oh, that's a great excuse, right? And sometimes I'm like, really? Or how long has it been since you've used it? 20 years. And every time you open up your cupboard, you look at it or you think about it. So sometimes it's just the psychology of, maybe you could give it to somebody else to use. I love working with youth or kids because it's great, because I'll say, they'll go through their shoes or something, and it's like, well, I really like these shoes. Well, for one, they're probably too small, right? And I usually say, there's somebody else that could use these shoes somewhere else. So it's great thought, food for thought, just somebody else could probably use it if you're not using it.
Any other questions? One more. Here, Barb.
If any of you are Facebook users, there are groups on Facebook. You gotta vet them, make sure they're okay. But there's groups that you can just go into and have conversations with people. Or I found two groups. One is called Nebraska Extraordinary Widows. And we get together once a month, either in Lincoln or Omaha, and either do dinner or something. This last time we met at a wine bar. I'd never been to a wine bar, so that was kind of interesting. And then the other one I found was Cool Retired Women. And there's a Nebraska chapter. And then we get together a couple times a month for coffee. We do things. We went to a Christmas tea, which was a full English kind of tea. And so you can find different groups on Facebook too, but just make sure they're safe.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Anybody else have a question? Oh, right here.
Can you hear me? Is there Bible study and exercise together? A Bible study group with 15, 20 minutes of exercise for seniors, Asian partners?
I'm not aware of one, but Debbie, you are a good thinker. You started Rock's Closet, and if you haven't heard of Rock's Closet, it's a nonprofit, and she gives away free clothing the first Saturday of every month at the Havelock Church. But Debbie, that'd be an awesome thing to start.
If you don't know about Aging Partners, you need to check into that, because that is an awesome organization for Lincoln elder people, and they have everything. They have exercise, they have like the class she was talking about over there. It's out where the old Veterans Hospital used to be. They have just outstanding. Lincoln is an oasis for older people. You just need to
Get out there.
get out there. Yeah.
And they have a lot of
Awesome.
different exercising machines.
Okay, so we're gonna have our educational partners, we're gonna come up and introduce them to you here, and they all have some door prizes we're gonna give away. So, first of all, while they're getting ready, I just want to thank our educational partners for doing that, and to thank our panel. Can we give them a big hand? I think we shared some great information. So, we're grateful for you being here and sharing this time with us. And hopefully today, this just got you some ideas going. It got the conversation started. And how you can better use this year with a little bit more of intention and to focus on reclaiming your joy. So we'll have the educational partners come over here, all their goodies, and they're going to introduce themselves to you and then talk a little bit about what they do and what they have here for your family. Yeah, let's just go ahead and stand over here so we have a And give a big hand to our educational partners. They help us to sponsor this event. They come and work this event. We work together on other projects and events for you throughout the year, and some of them have some coming up, and I think Wendy and Susan are going to share about one that they have coming up here soon. So I'll just let you guys.
Does anybody need a survey? If you need a survey, can you just raise your hand if you didn't get one? You good? Okay.
Yes, and these surveys, this is how we're going to do our drawing. If you haven't been here before, you need to completely fill these out. And I know some of you have been here before and you're getting tired of filling them out, but this is what we use so that we can judge how we're doing. So please rate us today. We have a scale there to rate us. And what we'd really like is for you to add just a little line in there, a testimonial on how Savvy Seniors may have helped you. We like to use these for our marketing, and people like to see, are we helping you or not? And how are we helping you? And so if you could add some comments to that we can use, that would be really appreciated. So Wendy, we'll go ahead and start with you.
So Susan with Sage, and I'm doing a presentation at Sage through Savvy Seniors. So this is an educational opportunity for all of you to come. Sage is hosting, and I'm going to talk about organizing space to live a more productive life. So you'll hear a lot of facts, a lot of information on organizing, and we'll talk about clutter and stress too. So if you need a flyer, it is going to be, I gotta look here, January 28th from 11:30 to 1:30. We'll have lunch. So on the bottom there, you can email me, or you can tell Susan or myself if you can come. So it's in 3 weeks. It's on a Wednesday again, over the lunch hour from 11:30 to 1:30. And if you want a flyer, come grab it. Susan and I have it. But I am Wendy with Organized by Design, and today I don't want to clutter you with some other stuff. So I have a Panera gift card.
Now, really getting back to the event, what would be the deadline they need to sign up? Because it's important for you to register, especially when they're serving you lunch, so that they have enough food.
Yes, so it would be preferably by Monday before, so the 26th, 2 days before. That gives us 2 days to get a number and a count. And then we'll also, I didn't even mention this, we'll also have tours of Sage afterwards.
And can they bring a friend?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, bring a friend.
Bring a friend.
They don't have to be part of
Savvy.
Savvy Seniors
Yes.
to join this. This is open to the public, right?
Yes. So when you email me, just email me your name and how many people you're going to bring with you. If you have their names, that's great too. We will have a sign-in sheet, but yes. Yeah, bring your friends. We'd love for you to join.
I think I have a question.
What's the location?
It's at Sage. It's at the Tabitha Sage.
Is that 40? Yeah.
47th and L Street. So I think a lot of you folks have been there before. I had a barbecue this last summer. You can park in our main parking lot or the back parking lot, which you turn off of J Street to access.
It's gonna be fun, y'all. Come.
It will be fun. Some great lunch, great tours, and more importantly, great information for downsizing, decluttering, and organizing your life and your things. So I'm Susan from Sage Living, 47th and L Street. We hope to see you at the end of the month. Many of the things that we talked about today when it came to loneliness, isolation, routines, being around people, making friends, finding things that you love, we have every single one of those things under our roof at Sage Living. So from our free continental breakfast every single morning, to activities, walking groups, spiritual groups, meditation, movie nights, tons and tons of opportunity, and for every interest out there to get involved, have routines, be around people, have friends, and hopefully alleviate some of that loneliness and isolation that is an epidemic with many of our seniors. So hope to see you there. Thank you.
I am Kelsey Hutchison with Oasis Senior Advisors. We are a free resource for seniors and their families to use when it comes to navigating the wild world of senior resources. Lincoln is very fortunate to have 40 plus communities here in town, but how do you know what's the right fit? How do you know what things cost? What do you tour by yourself? What happens with a tour? So we are happy to guide you through all of those things and go with you, help you schedule those, and kind of break down your budget as to what works best. If a community is maybe not the direction you want to go, we can also help you with home care. What does that look like? Medical home care, finding a new primary care physician, attorney, financial advisor, whatever you need. So we're just a listening ear to help guide you through all the resources. And then today we're kicking off Valentine's a little early so you can sample the chocolate before February 14th. So we have a little sampler and then a Walmart gift card.
Hello everyone, my name is Natalia Page. I'm a wealth advisor with Chloe Wealth here in town. We are a full service financial planning firm located off 59th and Old Cheney, right behind the South Laszlo's. And I didn't copy you, but I have the same kind of idea. Yes, I did. We hit up the Valentine's candy a little early, so I've got some candy and a Lowe's gift card.
Hi, my name is Reagan. I'm with the Alzheimer's Association. Here in Lincoln, we provide support groups, 24/7 hotline. If you have a loved one or know of somebody who needs help with Alzheimer's disease, we're here for you. And I brought something that might kick off your healthy heart, healthy brain, and maybe a New Year's resolution of getting more sleep. I have some lavender scented body wash and lotion.
Good morning, I am Natalie Leon and I own Visiting Angels. We provide care to our clients in their homes. So a lot of our clients like to stay home and we'll make sure that they are able to get the care that they need in their home as long as they're safe. I have a lovely little goodie item. Unfortunately, it's not the heart or brain healthy, but it is yummy to the tummy. I have this beautiful from the chocolate season. We have the almond butter crunch and then also the peanut brittle.
I'm AJ with Lucky Dog Property Solutions. Kind of staying on brand with the theme today. If you're getting into any of the organization or trying to kind of declutter, we do a lot of that kind of stuff. So we can put some custom shelves up if you have kind of an awkward space that you're trying to fill up and get kind of back to, where you can look at it without driving yourself crazy. We can find some solutions to that, or there's some shelves that go above a garage door opener and all kinds of different options out there for kind of utilizing the space that you have and trying to get those creative solutions to make your life a little bit simpler. My girls finally heeded my warning and started laying eggs again. So I have a dozen farm fresh eggs and some coffee and a little bit of chocolate as well.
Hello, my name is Dave Tuttle. I am your representative with American Senior Benefits. We do all things retirement, all of them. So if you're going to ask yourself, do you do that? Yep, we do. So I want you to also know I'm going to put a shout out to TJ and his mom. They are selling my house. They are. And they're doing an awesome job of it. So I want to put a shout out to them. They are great at what they do. Just so you know, and that's a little bit of blurb for me. I'm very impressed. I almost bought my own house. or not. And what I have for you is a Sherpa. It's a blanket to cover yourself when you've eaten all of the chocolate everybody else has.
Josh Pennerman, Pennerman Law, provide legacy and estate planning services, so wills, trusts, powers of attorney, those types of things that we're trying to get organized or so forth. And I guess, again, it's January in Nebraska, so I've got actually a cozy blanket and some socks here. I'm sure eventually it will not be 50 degrees. But.
Good morning, I'm George Simmons with Nebraska Real Estate Group. Alicia, TJ, Bud, Joe, and Paul right here as part of this group, Rose. We work with seniors in all stages of your life, whether you're staying. We have this whole group of partners that we work with and others to either stay in your house, find the right house, or go to a senior community. I have a spring garden fall collection here for you. It's nice to grow in the house for a while, and you can plant it along with the gloves and sunglasses if you need them.
That's a hopeful basket, isn't it? You see spring coming already?
Good morning. I'm Jose with Archwell. We are a doctor's office for young adults over the age of 60 that have Medicare Advantage plans. So yeah, that's it. We have a table over there. If you have any questions, come by. But I brought something super healthy. It's corn that has become popcorn now. So yeah.
I'm Barb McKillop. I'm with Savvy Aging, and it is a organization that helps you. If you need to find someone to help you with something, we can get you to that person. So like if you're interested in financial, we can give you the names of different people that work in that area. If you're looking for someone to help downsize you, or you have a friend that needs you to help downsize, we can give you the names of people that do that. So we're out there to help you age in place, so we can do things to help you stay where you want to be, whether that be a house or a townhouse or whatever. And the other thing too is that we're always looking for partners. So if you own a business, or if you have a friend that owns a business that you think would be helpful to seniors, come let us know, and we'd love to talk to you.
Okay, so we have all the evaluations picked up. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go down the line, we're gonna draw some, where are they? Okay, so we're gonna turn these over and we're gonna let you guys draw from these. You guys get to be the ones who make friends today. You just pick one.